Hi, and thanks for joining me for another Student Survival Study Skills set. Today we're going to journey into the basics of sentence structure and grammar, though we're not going to dwell too much on the grammar part as it can get confusing, and hopefully what you know already is going to help you. One tip I will give you here: if you want to learn to write better, read more and read academic articles and journals. You'll acquire more grammar that way than with a bunch of grammar lessons, believe me. Today's topics review 3 important sentence structures. So by the end of this video, you should know the difference between a simple, a compound and a complex sentence. You'll also know when to use a comma, a semicolon, a colon and a full stop. Right, simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? Okay, well, first of all, we need to know what a sentence is. How many words do you think we need to use to make a sentence? And what type of words do you think they are? Well, it may surprise you to know that to make a good sentence, we only need to use one word. Stop. Go. They start and end properly and they make sense. There are rules, of course, but the 3 rules of sentence are that it starts with a capital letter, it ends with a full stop, and it must make sense. Okay, so they are the 3 rules. As we've seen, one word can make a sentence as long as it makes sense. You can't use any word though. So if you've got words like, I don't know, idiot, another one, general, manager, they don't work unless they're answers or in speech. And we're not concentrating on speech, we're concentrating on the written word today. Right, making a simple sentence. A simple sentence is subject plus a verb plus a complete thought. It's the basic building block, also called an independent clause, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. So let's have a look at a basic sentence. Right, my brother walked to the concert. So here we've got my brother, the subject, walked to the concert. Walked, the verb, and to the concert. This is the complete thought. All right. Then we've got my brother and sister walked to the concert. Okay, so we've got 2 subjects and 1 verb. Then we've got my brother and sister walked and talked. So we've got 2 and 2 to the concert. Then we can just go on for as long as we want to. My brother, my sister, my friend walked, talked, laughed, cheered, and clapped at the concert. So you understand that we can go on forever if we want to do that. All right. Now that is a simple sentence. So now we're going to move on to compound sentences, which are a couple of sentences joined together with a linking word. Now, a linking word, there are a number of those too, also called conjunctions. Now, the first set we're going to call fanboys, which is an acronym. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. They're short, simple linking words. It's plain English, they're easy to use, but they do require a punctuation mark. Now, before we go on, the difference between acronyms and initialisms is, if we have a look at some of these here, AA, NATO, UNICEF, IRA, IBM, IKEA, which of those do you think are acronyms and which of them are initialisms? I'm going to leave it to you to work out. I'm not going to tell you which is which. Right, compound sentences. Let's have a look at this. The dog barked. Is that a compound sentence or a simple sentence? It's a simple sentence. What about this one? The neighbours didn't complain. That's a simple sentence too. But to make it a compound sentence, all we need to do is join them together. So how do we join them? It's very, very simple. The dog barked, but the neighbours didn't complain. So what we've got there is we've got a comma and one of the fanboys, the but. The dog barked, but the neighbours didn't complain. And there we have it, a really, really easy way of making a compound sentence. We have more conjunctions as well. If you look at consequently, furthermore, however, in addition, indeed, in fact, moreover, nevertheless, then, therefore, and you will find that you'll use these more in your academic writing than any others. They're longer and they are a little more formal looking, but they do the same thing. Each of them is a kind of equivalent to the fanboys, but we use a different type of punctuation for these words. Now, if we look at punctuation marks, the comma is the featherweight amongst them. So it's the smallest. The semicolon is next, which is kind of a welterweight, I guess. Then the colon, a middleweight, and of course ending them is the full stop, which is a heavyweight. Now, we've also got question marks and exclamation marks. Only ever use one of those at a time, please. We are running out of them due to negligent use by outraged tweeters. Right, so the semicolon, as you can see, it's a little more than a comma, but it's not quite beefed up enough to be a colon. It can be used two ways. Firstly, it connects a couple of closely related sentences or separates items in a list or series. They are kind of losing their importance a little bit, and they don't get used as often as they used to be, but that's probably down to either ignorance or laziness, but again, that's a different subject for a different day. Right, let's have a look at a couple of examples here. Dogs are hairy. Their fur is coarse. As you can see, again, the sentences are pretty much related. And when you say the sentence out loud, it makes more sense. Okay, so we've got dogs are hairy. Their fur is coarse. So you can tell there's a natural gap there. The brief pause, and I mean P-A-U-S-E, not P-A-W-S, adds emphasis to the connection here. In the following sentence, we can use one of the fanboys and a comma or a semicolon. So look at this one here. What we've got is, tennis is boring, so I prefer watching football. All right, so you can see there that we've used the comma and one of the fanboys. And then we've got the semicolon. Tennis is boring, I prefer watching football. Okay, so again, you can see both are right. As I mentioned earlier, the semicolon also separates things in a series or a list. It helps to make things a little bit clearer. All right, so if we use this example here, during our holiday, we visited a few places: Manchester, Birmingham, London, Newcastle, and Edinburgh. We can see during our holiday we visited a few places. All right, then we've got the list. So the semicolon here separates the sentence from the list. Well, it's a compound sentence. We've got two simple sentences. A complex sentence, we've got a sentence and a dependent clause. They're not complete thoughts. Now remember, a sentence must always make sense. So it consists of an independent clause. Independent means it can stand on its own without anything to support it, and a dependent clause, which is an incomplete thought. Okay, have a look at this sentence. I'll pick them up. Is that a good sentence? Yes, it is. It's independent. It's a complete sentence. It makes sense. I will pick them up. All right, what about this one here? From the airport. Is that a complete sentence? No, it's not. It's dependent. It needs support. So if we say, I'll pick them up from the airport, there, we've got a full sentence. We've got an independent clause and a dependent clause. So this makes a complex sentence. Avoiding sentence errors. Now, run-on sentences are quite a problem because lots of students think they have to go overboard, and this simply isn't the case. We're not going to go too in-depth with this because it could get too complicated. And what I want to do is give easily digestible examples. All right, so if we look at this one, my neighbour is 75, he plays football every Saturday. What we've got here is a compound sentence, although it's not properly structured, because we've got my neighbour is 75, which is one good standalone sentence, and he plays football every Saturday. Another perfectly good standalone sentence. But they're run on because there's no punctuation in there. My neighbour is 75, he plays football every Saturday. There's a natural break there, two sentences separated with the comma. And now if we move into a complex sentence with the same thing, Gary decided to major in psychology after his sister was diagnosed with anorexia. You can see here we've got a good sentence and then we've got an incomplete sentence. All right, so it's a dependent clause. So what we need to do is put the two together so that they're not fragmented. Gary decided to major in psychology after his sister was diagnosed with anorexia. There we've got a good complex sentence. Obviously this doesn't cover everything because we could go on all day about it, but I will run another more in-depth clip later on. Thanks very much for watching to the end. Please leave a comment if you'd like me to answer any questions. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you click the bell, as this will let you know when the next clip drops. And you're more than welcome to share the link with your friends and fellow students. One thing I would ask though is please don't nick my work. I know it happens, but it's not good, and I'm doing this free of charge, so please play fair. Point people in my direction rather than nicking it yourself. Bye now.